Jay-Z is suing his accuser for defamation and malicious prosecution. It was once a hard knock life for the rapper, and last year it took a turn for the worse as the billionaire Jay-Z got entangled in Diddy's intricate web of freak-offs. And now Jay-Z is going beyond a reasonable doubt to disprove the false claims leveled against him and leaving nothing to the imagination that he was capable of those allegations in his lawsuit. It all started when a 13-year-old attended the 2000 VMAs in New York Radio Hall City, and this would result in a litany of lawsuits that had one theme: extortion, resulting in Jay-Z losing $20 million in just over 3 months. Now back to the VMAs, the 13-year-old Jane Doe claims she attended the VMAs, but she was later picked up by a limousine driver purportedly working for Diddy and was driven to a large white residential home with a U-shaped driveway, where she was assaulted by Diddy and Jay-Z while celebrity B watched. She asserted she confided in another celebrity about the ordeal and called her father, who drove 5 hours to pick her up. Now, what this story lacks in consistency, it makes up for it in guessing, as it became evidently clear over time that the allegations were outside the realm of possibilities. Now back to the story. Jane Doe initially filed a complaint against Diddy and 10 John Does, suing them under the New York Victims of Gender-Motivated Violence Protection Act, as the crime of non-consensual was a crime of violence motivated by gender. But behind the scenes, Jane Doe had sent a demand letter to one of the John Does, that is Jay-Z, compelling him into a confidential mediation, failure to which Jane Doe would make public the SA allegations against him that would cause irreparable harm to Jay-Z's reputation, family, career, livelihood, and will ultimately cause him financial ruin. However, against this backdrop, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Jane Doe was familiar with this kind of hustle. This is because just 90 days before sending the extortionate demand letter to Jay-Z, she had made 3 other allegations that either got dismissed or dropped by courts. She also had a second-degree assault charge and had her bail revoked because she failed a drug test. And in this assault charge, it revealed that her stretch of imagination was because she suffered from mental health-related issues and was under medication, as was testified by a psychiatrist in court. She had also lost custody of her kids and was being supported by her parents, who have now filed for bankruptcy. And this brings us back to the extortionate demand letter that gave Jay-Z just a 2-week window to capitulate to their demands, requiring him to pay something of substance through a settlement. However, Jay-Z would issue a public statement in which he stated that he wasn't giving them not one red penny. Now, behind the scenes, something more sinister was happening. Allegedly, Roc Nation and Jay-Z's lawyers were soliciting Attorney Busby's former and current clients to file frivolous lawsuits against him, with an allegation that one of the clients was offered $10,000 to sue Attorney Busby. And now Attorney Busby has filed a lawsuit on behalf of one of his clients, suing the Roc Nation and Jay-Z's law firm of barratry and engaging in conspiracy to commit barratry. However, Jay-Z didn't fold. Instead, he filed a lawsuit against Jane Doe's lawyer, Attorney Busby, for extortion and intentional infliction of emotional distress. In doubling down on the extortionate demand letter, Jane Doe's lawyer, Attorney Busby, filed a lawsuit naming Jay-Z as a PDF of a 13-year-old. Just 5 days later, Jane Doe went on an NBC interview that exposed cracks in her story. For instance, she claimed she watched the VMAs outside on a Jumbotron. However, this was debunked because the VMAs producers and NYPD asserted that there were no Jumbotrons because the VMAs were denied a permit. She further stretched her imagination, claiming that she was picked up by a limousine, allegedly by Diddy's driver. However, this was also debunked because limos only dropped and picked up celebrities. Further, the police had barricaded fans from accessing celebs' limos. Further, she was inconsistent as to how long the drive took from the VMAs to the large white residence for the after party. She even admitted she had made mistakes in recounting her story and that she was guessing. There were no houses, including Diddy's, within that 20-minute radius from the Radio City Hall that had the uncanny resemblance to the description that she had painted. Further, the celebrity whom she claimed she confided in was actually on tour in Midwest, which makes it impossible for him to be at the 2000 VMAs. She also claimed that father picked her up after a 5-hour drive and drove her home, making it a 10-hour drive. However, upon her father being questioned, he had no recollection of these events, and evidence that actually exculpates Jay-Z, as at the time of the alleged assault, Jay-Z was spotted at a private club, the Lotus nightclub, which makes it impossible for him to be both at the nightclub and the after party at the large white residence. Now, Jane Doe's story isn't the only thing that's coming apart at the seams, as her lawyer, Tony Busby, who filed a lawsuit claiming 120 victims were assayed by Diddy, was also exposed for actually not being admitted to the bar in the U.S. Southern District of New York. The court ordered him to file proof of admission. However, once he made an application to be admitted, it was denied because he had already filed the pleadings. Now, the court has ordered him to attach a copy of the denial order to any other subsequent application for admission in cases before the Southern District of New York. Now, Attorney Busby, facing threat of imminent punishment by the court for lack of proof of admission, he advised his client Jane Doe to withdraw the case, but not before he spun the narrative claiming Jay-Z is dangerous and that he had made not so veiled threats at her. Ultimately, on 14th February 2025, Jane Doe voluntarily dismissed the lawsuit against Jay-Z and Diddy. Just weeks later, after the dismissal, Attorney Busby would find out that Jane Doe had disclosed to Jay-Z's lawyers that he, Attorney Busby, was pulling the strings and orchestrated the lawsuit against Jay-Z. Attorney Busby would allegedly threaten Jay-Z's lawyers that if they publicly disclosed these allegations against him, he would claim that Jay-Z or his associates had harassed and intimidated Jane Doe and that she only withdrew the lawsuit for fear of her life. More importantly, despite the dismissal of the suit, that Jane Doe would maintain that every allegation against Jay-Z was indeed true. Just days later, a recording would be leaked to the media of Jane Doe denying Jay-Z's involvement in the essay and also claiming that Attorney Busby was behind the lawsuit. Here's the recording.
But Jay-Z you're saying he was definitely there? But he had no part in it, or he was just...
He was there. He was just there, but he didn't have anything to do with any sexual acts towards you. It was strictly...
Yeah. He was the one that kind of pushed me towards going forward with him.
With Jay-Z. Busby did?
Yeah.
Attorney Busby would respond to these allegations.
They say that they have you on tape denying that Jay-Z assaulted you. Is that true?
No. I don't. I've never said that.
Okay. They also say that you told them, and they have it on tape, that I, Tony Busby, told you to came up with this plan and told you to say that Jay-Z assaulted you so you would get more money.
No.
And with this new revelation that shed light to the allegations, Jay-Z filed a lawsuit that could potentially set a precedent as he's suing Jane Doe and her attorney for malicious prosecution. This is because they acted with malice when they filed a lawsuit that had no reasonable and probable cause, and its outcome was in favor of Jay-Z as it was voluntarily dismissed. Secondly, Jay-Z is suing for defamation per se, as the allegations that Jay-Z is a PDF is a crime of moral turpitude that subjected Jay-Z to disgrace, ridicule, contempt, and public hatred, in which he suffered financial ruin in the excess of $20 million in out-of-pocket expenses, emotional harm, humiliation, and harassment. Generally, defamation per se does not require the plaintiff, in this case Jay-Z, to prove damages. This is because the allegations of being a PDF on the face of it would harm anyone's reputation, whether they are guilty or not. Lastly, he sued them for participating in a civil conspiracy for filing a frivolous lawsuit that is an abuse of court process to extort Jay-Z out of millions by filing and publishing false and damaging accusations on the national news media outlets that caused harm to Jay's reputation and financial well-being. Now, just days ago, things took a twist as Attorney Busby, who is representing 120 victims of Diddy, has formally withdrawn from representing his clients in 15 civil suits he had filed against Diddy over his lack of admission, which is the authorization to practice law and represent his clients in the Southern District of New York. The cases, however, will go on, as he claims he withdrew from the cases, but not his law firm. Whilst it may seem to the untrained mind that Attorney Busby is done, according to media reports, he just filed a motion to dismiss Jayz's lawsuit, claiming that the court does not have jurisdiction to determine the matter. Secondly, that the lawsuit doesn't state a legal claim against him. And thirdly, that the suit is retaliatory. Attorney Busby further makes assertions that Jay-Z reneged on the agreement. Upon Attorney Busby filing the motion to dismiss Jane Doe's case with prejudice, allegedly Jay-Z was to stop sending people to harass and intimidate Jane Doe, and just 1 week after the agreement, investigators harassed and intimidated Jane Doe, leading to the now infamous recording of Jane Doe denying Jay-Z's involvement in the SA allegations. Moreover, Jay-Z's attorney Alex Sparrow was also to withdraw the Rule 11 motion that brought sanctions against Mr. Busby's law firm. Now, Jay-Z's lawyer Alex Sparrow has refuted that there was any agreement with Attorney Busby. Jay-Z's case against Attorney Busby is still ongoing, and I'll keep you updated.